After being such a huge fan of the Mazda 3 hatchback last spring and discussing some of the similarities and differences with my good friend Zach Pareto from Shooting Cars, Mazda was kind enough to send out the CX-30 Turbo Premium Plus for me to spend some additional time with. Now, after about 6 days behind the wheel of this SUV, I now see how the CX-30 might appeal over the Mazda 3 hatchback to certain buyers, given its taller stance, higher ground clearance, and just overall higher seating position. However, that doesn't mean it does everything better than the 3 hatchback, particularly due to its slightly smaller wheelbase. So without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and take a look at my likes and dislikes here with the Mazda CX-30 Turbo Premium Plus, see how that stacks up to the Mazda 3 hatchback, and also which one I would take given the opportunity. Now, starting off my list of likes, as usual, the first one has to be the interior. Now, this is a common like I have across a lot of the Mazda products I've gotten on the channel over the last year and a half, and the CX-30 Premium Plus is no different. Now, this one is optioned with the black and brown two-tone leather interior, and the material usage across the door panels, the dash, the center console, the seating materials, and the leather quality that they use on them is just phenomenal. You have a great design. The buttons and switchgear feel of high quality, and I like the design language that they kind of have a common theme of across their vehicles yet again. With certain buttons and switchgear on the left side, in the center console for the multimedia infotainment system, and then the steering wheel is a highlight as well. I like most of it, and I have really no complaints in that regard. So if you're looking for a semi-luxurious interior, I think the CX-30 in their higher trim levels will certainly offer that to you. Now, continuing on, my second like has to do particularly with the seat comfort. Now, once again, these are finished in the black leather. You do have a power driver seat with two-way lumbar, as well as two-position memory driver seat. And getting out of the vehicle last week, which did not at all compete in this segment, or wasn't even an SUV, it was a mid-sized truck, these seats felt so much more comfortable. I was so happy to get inside these. So I do have spinal fusion, so headrests, particularly in some vehicles, do give me discomfort, but I'm happy to say that Mazda has a seat design that does not give me any discomfort, has a good range of motion here for the tilt telescopic steering column, so I can get in a very comfortable seating position, and I have no complaints with these seats whatsoever, compared to the memory function that you have on this particular trim level and spec. Again, I think the seat comfort here in the front seats is very good, but that might not be the case for the second row, which we'll get into a little bit later here in this video. So moving on to my third like, that's going to have to do with the feature set that this vehicle comes equipped with, specifically in the Premium Plus trim levels. So just like that of most of the other trims, you're going to get things like the adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot detection technologies for the driver assist systems, but above and beyond that, you're going to get automatic headlights with auto high beam assist, automatic rain sense wipers, two-position memory driver seat, Bose premium audio system with the CenterPoint surround sound technology, 360 camera system, front and rear parking sensor with automatic braking technology. Of course, you have the nice larger infotainment system with wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, heated front seats, heated steering wheel, dual zone automatic climate control, and there you can see the multimedia integration controller, which actually works very well with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as Mazda's own UI. Now, above and beyond this, of course, you have the auto-dimming driver's side exterior mirror and interior mirror with garage home link, power sunroof, and at the front of the vehicle, you of course have the adaptive LED projector headlights, which swivel and level themselves depending on the conditions when you're, turning the steering wheel, things like that. Just a little bit more of an advanced LED projector headlight, and I really do like that. Now, moving out back, you get the power liftgate on this vehicle, which does not come on the Mazda 3 hatchback Turbo Premium Plus, so that is a little bit of a slight benefit going to the CX-30. And overall, I just think the feature set of this vehicle, yes, it does come at a premium price tag, but is, extremely competitive and, like I said, semi-luxurious with the materials and the overall design language here on the interior. So I think that is definitely going to be one of the standout attributes. And that brings us to my next like, and that has to do with the turbo powertrain that is going to be optional and available, just like that of the Mazda 3 hatchback. So under the hood, you're going to find a very similar, if not identical, 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder paired to a 6-speed torque-converted automatic transmission, standard all-wheel drive, and the torsion beam rear suspension. This engine puts out 250 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, and I have no complaints about the output and the kind of fun-to-drive attributes that this engine does add to this platform. Now, The 6-speed's actually been fairly snappy and firm to shift, so I like that about this vehicle. It's not the most latest and greatest transmission or powertrain setup that's available across the industry, but given Mazda's dynamic handling characteristics, the platform, the suspension tuning that they've done with these vehicles, I think it just makes it a more enjoyable experience as a whole. And if I was going to buy a CX-30 or Mazda 3 hatchback, I would probably take the slight hit in fuel economy to get the turbo powertrain and just the fun to drive characteristics of this vehicle. Now, I guess that leads me into my next like with this powertrain. One that's just, quick to mention is that the 2.5 liter turbo actually has a very nice sound inside of the cabin when driving around town under normal acceleration, or if you want to put your foot down into it. It's a little bit slick outside, got a little wheel spin. Now, I think my last two likes with this vehicle have to specifically do with the infotainment system, specifically how quick it is to connect with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay wirelessly after starting up or getting inside the vehicle. Now, along with the infotainment system, I think the Bose premium audio system, 12-speaker design with a dedicated subwoofer in the trunk, again, is a nice standout highlight and feature because it sounds very good. It might not be the most advanced or best sounding audio system in this segment, but I think it's well above average. So I think that's going to do it here for all my likes with the CX-30 Turbo Premium Plus. Now let's get into the dislikes, some of which are shared with the Mazda 3 hatchback. Other ones seem to be a little bit more specific to either the CX-30 or this vehicle in general. So my first dislike is one shared with the 3 hatchback, and that's simply going to be due to the fact that the heated steering wheel does not heat the entire perimeter of the wheel, but stops at about the 10 and 2 positions right here and leaves this portion unheated. So depending on how you like to drive the vehicle in those winter months, if you're at the 12 o'clock position, it is going to be a cold leather wrap wheel, especially if your car sits outside, in an unheated garage, versus down here where it's going to be nice and warm. This wheel does get very nice and warm, but you might have to change your hand position or how you drive in those times of months where a lot of the other manufacturers simply do heat the entire perimeter. I don't get why Mazda doesn't. Now, my second dislike is going to be kind of an interesting one. It isn't so much of a dislike, but is something to do with the design of the dashboard, infotainment system, as well as the passenger side mirror of the vehicle. So when I've got this seat set in my driving position, I noticed that the bottom corner of the infotainment system, specifically right here, you can see is ever so slightly cut off. And I actually cannot see, 100% of the screen illuminated. Now this side's okay, but it does dip down just a little bit, so I can't see that portion right there. Now, not a big deal. It doesn't cut off really any information, but along with that, the passenger side mirror has the exact same issue. As you can see, the door panel and the belt line of the vehicle cuts off about, 5 to 10% of the actual mirror glass itself. So if you have the seat set up high like this, you might be fine in seeing the entire mirror space, but if you have it set where I do, it cuts off just a very slight amount of the mirror. I don't know if the Mazda 3 hatchback had this issue for the mirror and or infotainment system, but it is an interesting design element that's worth noting. Now, moving on to my third dislike, that's going to be the fact that there is no ventilated front seats available at all on the CX-30 model. Now, I don't really consider this a big deal depending on the price point that this vehicle is coming in at, and the only reason I'm adding it to this list is because of the premium price tag Mazda is charging for the CX-30 here as equipped in this vehicle. So I would like to see ventilated front seats. There is a position for it, here on the climate control cluster, and some of the competition in the space actually do offer on their very fully loaded models. So I think that would make the value proposition just a little bit more stronger if this vehicle did have those, ventilated front seats available. Now, my fourth dislike is going to have to do with this number right here, as well as this gauge or dial on the far right-hand side, and that is going to be the fuel economy as well as the fuel tank size. So in case you guys are unfamiliar with the Mazda 3 hatchback or the CX-30 platform, both the vehicles share the same 12.7 gallon fuel tank capacity, and the CX-30 actually gets about 1 mpg less across the board in its fuel economy ratings from that of the smaller Mazda 3 turbo hatchback. So when you look at the overall fuel range and fuel economy numbers, this vehicle can barely get over 300 miles of range on a full tank of fuel. So I think that was a drawback in the Mazda 3 already. It's rated at about 330 miles of fuel range. This vehicle is rated at about 318 miles of fuel range. And compared to, again, some of the competition that have larger fuel tanks and or get better fuel economy, I just think you're going to be filling this vehicle up all the time, especially if you're doing city driving and getting those lower fuel economy numbers, for the city rating of the window sticker. And I think that's just a drawback. I really would like to see, a 14 to 15 gallon fuel tank in both these two vehicles because of their lesser than average fuel economy ratings. Yes, I know they have the turbo engine with more power underneath the hood and it makes it more enjoyable in that experience, but I would not want to be filling this vehicle up all the time, like once a week or more, depending on the type of driving you're doing. Now, my next dislike has to do with the key fob. And again, this is something shared with other models, and that's the fact that there is no remote start possible from that of the proximity key fob on a lot of their recent products. So you basically have lock, unlock, you have the power trunk, and then the alarm system button at the very bottom. Outside of that, it is a nice, fairly slim profile, premium looking fob, but other manufacturers are offering remote start on their key fobs, and I think that would make the ownership experience, day-to-day usability, again, in those wintertime conditions, just that much more easy. Of course, you do have the Mazda Connect app, which you can use to do a lot of those functions, including remote start and, lock, unlock the vehicle. But to me, remote start on the key fob would be, just another added benefit. Now, in addition to not having remote start on the key fob, another item that this vehicle does not have is the automatic seat functionality in terms of, automatic heated seats and automatic heated steering wheel. So if you're getting inside this vehicle, say it's 20, 25 degrees outside, whatever it be it, unfortunately, the seats do not automatically enable in those conditions, and there's no setting in the infotainment system to turn that on. So you will have to manually push the buttons for both those items. I'm not sure about the remote start on the connected app and the connected services. Maybe that is possible to enable, but I would like to see automatic seat climate, just like that of some of their higher end models, like the CX-50 does have the automatic function. But unfortunately, here in this vehicle, from what I was able to discover, that is omitted from this vehicle. Now, moving on to my next dislike, this is actually going to be an interesting one. You guys, if you happen to own a CX-30 or have experience with one, will have to let me know if this is in your vehicle as well. But it's something to do with the seat belts, and specifically the lock function that happens when you're, in hard braking situations, in extreme maneuvers where the vehicle detects that there is a possible rollover. Is just another safety mechanism. But for some reason, this vehicle has one of the easiest locking seat belts that I've ever discovered in just daily driving situations. So I will be driving down my road that has a slight decline, and it comes up to a stop sign, to make a right-hand turn. And every single time I've driven down that road and, braked just like I normally would, the seatbelt would once again lock up just like it is now that I'm pulling on it in a very extreme situation. And it would prevent me from leaning forward enough to actually see oncoming traffic driving down the road. So this has happened so many times that I just have to mention it in this video. I don't know why it's doing this, if it's a vehicle specific thing, if it's a CX-30 thing. I don't recall this being a thing at all in the 3 hatchback. So again, very annoying. This would impact my day-to-day usability and enjoyment of the vehicle 100%, because if you're having the exact same issue happen on every single time you drive down a section of road, that would be very annoying and would probably prevent me from buying the vehicle in the first place. So not sure what the issue is, why the seatbelt locks so easily, but do keep that in mind if you're taking one for a test drive or looking at this vehicle. Make sure it doesn't do it all the time, or something might be up with the overall design language. Now, moving on to the back seat of the CX-30, this is something that does differ from that of the Mazda 3 hatchback, likely due to that smaller wheelbase. So I guess I have a couple complaints. My first complaint about the back seat is the rear seat back is very vertical and very upright, to the point where I would not want to sit back here for probably more than an across-town trip, maybe an hour or so at the most, before I would probably start to realize or see some back pain and some discomfort, just due to the fact that this is extremely vertical, kind of similar to that of some mid-sized trucks, if you will. Not far off in that regards. Now, you do have AC rear vents back here, which is nice. That's a feature you don't see in every subcompact SUV, but you also don't see any USB charging or 120 volt household outlet back here, so you have no way to charge any devices you might have in the back seat, which seems like a clear oversight and weird omission in this vehicle, especially again given the premium price tag. Now, moving on to my next dislike, this has to do with the placement of the cup holders and the wireless charging pad. So this was something I mentioned as a concern in the Mazda 3 hatchback, and from my day-to-day usability, this is just not the overall most ergonomic design and use of space inside of the center console. So the way Mazda's laid it out infotainment controller, 6-speed automatic transmission gear selector centered in the center console, 2 cup holders, which actually are very large and usable, and then your wireless charging pad is found back there. You can see the iPhone is currently sitting on it. And this space right here just doesn't seem great. So I usually have the 20-ounce Yeti tumbler every single day. So if you want to get in and put it in before shifting the gear into drive, you know, you have to not only reach around it, which is that a big deal? No. Is that the easiest versus having them say maybe this, shift it over to the left side, the cup holders over here? That would be my preferred kind of overall layout, but then you have to integrate this in a relatively good manner as well. But the thing that gets me is that if you want to put your phone down on a wireless charging pad after you have a cup or anything else in these cup holders, say this is on this side, closest to the driver, well, then your phone is all the way back here. And, you know, is that hard to reach around and grab it? No, probably not. But is it most ergonomic out there? Definitely not. So this is just kind of a weird layout. I don't love it. I don't think it's end all be all if I were to purchase this vehicle, but it would kind of get annoying depending on how much I would use both of those 2 items. And I do like the fact that the center console here has a 2 position, so you can have it open like this, and then it will go ahead and open inside, and there are 2 USB-C charge and data ports in there. It's a hard one. It's a tough one because I do like how large the cup holders are. I kind of like the layout as it is, but I do realize those 2 features and how they interact might be a little bit more difficult to use because of their location. So with all those out of the way, that's going to bring me to my final dislike with this vehicle, and that's going to be the price and or value proposition. So believe it or not, the Mazda 3 Turbo Premium Plus and this vehicle seen here have identical MSRPs. The only difference is the CX-30 gets a $235 more expensive destination charge, which means MSRP to MSRP, this one is more expensive than that of the Mazda 3 Turbo Premium Plus hatch. Now, with that being said, this vehicle does have a feature or 2, such as the power liftgate, which the Mazda 3 hatch does not, but does have a little bit less rear seat room / worse comfort. And believe it or not, the Mazda 3 hatchback has a little bit more total cargo volume with the seats folded flat, again, due to its slightly longer wheelbase. So when you look at this vehicle, it's basically $39,000. Pick your poison as to which one you want. A little bit higher ground clearance, a little bit higher ride height, more body cladding on the exterior versus the Mazda 3 hatch not having pretty much any body cladding outside of the ground effects. And that leaves me with a tough choice. Which one would I take if I were in the market to spend roughly $39,000 on a compact Mazda vehicle? And I'm going to go with the Mazda 3 Turbo hatchback. I think that vehicle from a design aesthetic point is superior to this one, namely that black cladding that you see on the side of this vehicle. I'm not a huge fan of it. This one has, I think, slightly worse handling just due to its higher center of gravity and higher ride height. So that is another very slight attribute difference between the two. And I think overall, I think the Mazda 3 hatchback is just a better vehicle all around for very similar money. I'm a compact hatchback owner right now. I love that segment, and it's not often you find all-wheel drive, turbocharged powertrain with that luxurious of an interior and well-equipped vehicle in the compact hatchback space. And those vehicles, as we know, are going away, you know, for the most part, because people just are gravitating towards subcompact SUVs like this one for roughly the same money, despite being slightly worse on paper in terms of size, utility, and you know, interior volume in general. So overall, I think the CX-30, great vehicle, love it just like that of a lot of other Mazda products out there. But is it worth the exact same price tag as the 3 Turbo hatchback? Personally, in my opinion, no. But if you want that higher ride height, the body or the matte black plastic cladding on the exterior, and just an SUV body style in general, then it is going to be a good equivalent to that 3 hatchback that I did tested just about a year ago here on the channel. So with all that being said, I want to give a huge thanks to Mazda for sending this vehicle out for me to test and review, Zach Prado for giving me a little bit more insight between the two vehicles. There are some interior differences in materials between the two as well, which make the 3 hatchback a little bit more premium. You get the stainless steel speaker grills for the Bose audio where you don't on this vehicle. So to me, I think that's another small detail that is worth noting. But you know, let me know down in the comment section below which one you would take if you were in the market for a vehicle of this approximate size for, again, that $38,000 to $39,000 price point as equipped. And if you're looking to save a little bit of money, the standard 2.5 NA 4-cylinder is going to be a good alternative. You still can get the Premium Plus on those trim levels and save a couple $1,000s, which might be a good choice. Like I said, if you don't value the performance or the other attributes of the turbo, and get a little bit better fuel economy. But anyways, let me know all that down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Stay tuned for additional videos I have coming here on the CX-30 Turbo. And with all that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.